I work with some startup communities that are interested in co-housing, and I always advise them that pretty early in the process, they very overtly talk about their governance and decision making and make an overt decision, because usually they're so caught up in land and getting members and all of that stuff, and they're obviously making decisions, but they're not really explicit. So I recommend that they get a process consultant and make an explicit decision. How are we going to make decisions? Whether it be sociocracy or consensus with fallback, but then they have it on board and they can then train new members in that system. So it's just like you need a consultant, maybe for your real estate or for your architecture, you need some help with your process as well. It's not that easy, particularly for a new group. We started with consensus primarily because the founders that we had were familiar with that. Sociocracy was certainly known, but it was less popular and less well-known. We started 10 years ago, so it wasn't like we made a choice between sociocracy and consensus. We started with consensus, and we've always had a pretty effective decision-making process. We've used committees, so we delegate a lot to committees, so we don't have the problem of large, interminable meetings of the whole, which is one problem. And as sociocracy came along, I looked at it very carefully because so many people were interested in it, but we didn't have the problems that sociocracy was solving. We actually have elements of sociocracy, but it didn't seem to make sense to do a kind of a wholesale change of structure when our members are really pretty comfortable with what we're doing. So we're really working on deepening our understanding of consensus and what it means to block and what it means to consent, rather than sort of changing the structure. But for groups that are starting new, sociocracy certainly offers it's an organizational structure model. It's not just a decision-making model.
I would love to follow Lew, because we were just a little bit later. Sociocracy was a little bit more well known. So I did a lot of research and reading on the two different governance systems. And the biggest objection the biggest difficulty I saw with people using sociocracy was in established communities like PDX Commons trying to switch. And I saw that people had a really challenging time trying to switch to a different governance model. Some people in the community would be, really enthusiastic about it. Look at this new fancy, exciting governance model. And other people would, of course, say no, or what we have is working well. So we decided from the beginning to use sociocracy. I just find it a really clear, intentional organizational structure. We do, let's see, I'm looking at my notes here. It's about, they're very similar. So there's not a lot of huge differences, but at the foundation, we use what we call consent, which is different than I agree. It's I consent to it, I don't object. So if we have a proposal about something, and as long as I don't object to it, then I would say that I consent to it. So we also, what helps in that is to put a review date on it. So I might say, well, I don't think that that's going to work, but let's review it in 2 months and we can talk about whether it worked or not. And I might be wrong. It might work just fine. Or maybe it's not working and we can redo whatever it is. And the saying in sociocracy is good enough for now, safe enough to try. So sociocracy is about trying out something and always giving feedback on how did it work, giving feedback to people on how they're doing in leadership roles, and being able to improve with leadership skills. Miriam, do you want to add to that? What's your experience in our community with using sociocracy?
My thought just is that it's a very evolutionary thing, that we started small, and as we're growing, it requires different skills and different mindsets, but it can accommodate that. And the other thing I found is targeted training is really important. I know that Los Portales uses it as well. And I can see Charlie mouthing the good enough, safe enough to try for now. We know that.
We do use committees, we call them circles. So similar to what PDX Commons is describing, each circle has responsibility, has a defined goal, a defined area of what they're responsible for, and they just go ahead and do what they want to do and then report to the big community. So we are now, as a forming community, we are making a lot of decisions together because we're making decisions about roofing and flooring. So these are certainly things that involve all of us and will affect all of us a lot. But eventually, only the people interested in landscaping and garden and the outdoors will make those decisions. So the whole group doesn't have to get involved in what variety of carrots are going to be planted in the garden this year.
Yeah, that's almost the same thing here in Los Portales. Actually, we realized that we received the tools at the moment that we needed and we are ready to use it. So Sociocracy went to us like, I would say like 7 or 8 years ago, and it was a perfect moment. We received it from the hand from John Buck and Gilles Charret, and it was really fantastic. And also we realized that it brings a lot more transparency, a lot more self-empowerment and sense of responsibility. It's really great, and the power of objection. So it means that I'm not against when I say no. I really want to make it better, and I see something that you don't see. So it's an art. For me, like Sociocracy is like a box of color pencils. But what make a painting is the artist, the human being. So it's not Sociocracy; it's the way we use it. And we realized really that it's not that easy. It's not Sociocracy that will bring all this. It's us using it and also we realize that which voice am I bringing to the circle, which voice is actually objecting inside. So we have to put more transparency inside ourselves too, so that when we bring something, it's really from the upper level. Sorry, I've got our dog working. But it's really nice, and also we understood that it's very important to use Sociocracy, but we have to use it with something else, not only Sociocracy. It won't be enough. We have to bring more consciousness, and also to listen which voice is talking right now. Am I really right now talking for the best of the project, or I mean, it's not that easy, and it's very nice because we learn a lot. Catherine, you want to?
Sorry about that. So you're the one who actually brought the Sociocracy in the Los Portales. So you're the expert on the subject. I think that it's working beautifully. There's a lot with so many people and so many areas that we are dealing with. It's important to have different circles that deal with the different aspects, and then have an overall view on everything through the general circle. So I think it's a very practical, it's not always easy, but it's a very practical and it's a very transparent. And I think that when you are against something, you have to explain why you are against something, and you have to justify, and maybe it helps everybody understand what elements need to be worked on, and also then you can understand what voice is speaking and if it's valid or not. So it's very interesting as a process in itself, and helpful.
I'm curious, Los Portales, were you using something before Sociocracy?
Well, it was before we were like working as a group, and so we were making decisions together, but they were not like a very formal. So sometimes we would lose time trying to decide for everything together. And so we realized that with Sociocracy it was fantastic that we can really specialize circle working in that part, and but also we were working a lot, as I say, about the individuation part. Also so we were listening to the voices from each of us and also from the group, and till now we are working with this idea of co-creating with the community as a spirit. So it's there. But for us, for the day-to-day life, it's fantastic because it brings clarity, transparency, and we know who will take care or charge of things. We don't have to be stressed. Who will cook? Who will do the laundry? No, it's clear now. Before, some people would have a lot of weight on their shoulders because they would tend to take care of a lot of things, and now they can say, okay, no, it's not my stuff. Take it, do it. And so it's better. And also we realize that quiet voices, people that don't speak loud, that don't yell, got a lot of things to say. And with these circles, with this Sociocracy, we get to hear those voices. So before it was more difficult to listen to that voices, but with Sociocracy you can say, oh my God, wow, what did you say? That's right, fantastic. So it creates another dynamic.